And then imagine they've now found the genuine happiness that they seek. And take joy in this. And before beginning the second half, if you need to stretch your legs, you can do that now quietly. So once again, finding that nice, comfortable posture, back straight, and allowing the entire body to become completely relaxed. And allowing the mind to come to rest in the present moment. Simply becoming aware of the rhythm of the breath. And again, we can begin by imagining the inner purity of our mind. Imagining this deepest dimension of our mind in the form of a small, white, radiant sphere of light in the centre of our chest at the level of our heart. And then allow your field of loving kindness and compassion to expand out further. And allow your mind to move around. And whoever comes to mind, whether it's a friend, a stranger, or even a difficult person, attend to them. May you be free of all suffering and its causes. May you be truly well and happy. And breathing in with compassion, dissolving and extinguishing their suffering at your heart, and breathing out the light of loving kindness, sending to them whatever they need to be happy. Allow your mind to continue to move around. Whoever comes to mind, whether it's an individual or even a group of people, attend to them. Breathing in with compassion, breathing out the light of loving kindness. No matter how much darkness is drawn in, it is all extinguished without a trace. And no matter how much light is sent out, it is sent out from an inexhaustible source that is in no way depleted. Breathing in with compassion, breathing out the light of loving kindness. release all appearances and simply allow the mind to come to rest. And simply rest in that inner purity of mind. Which is in the nature of loving kindness and compassion. Before we look at how to apply this Tonglen practice in daily life, is there any questions about bodhicitta or this Tonglen practice?
It feels hypocrite in some way.
Hypocritical?
Yeah.
In what sense?
Like I'm practicing it and in the same time I'm saying, oh come on, you don't really mean it, like things like that. Like it's not, I feel hypocrite. Like if I think, you can't understand that?
Yeah, but you're... Yeah,
it's like you're saying I should imagine the nature of mind as pure and then I say, okay, but my mind is not really pure. And it's like this...
well then we need to understand that it is in fact pure. See, this is where we need to... This is why Shamatha practice is helpful and also Vipassana practice is helpful. Because if we do these practices and do some study, we will come to understand that the mind is actually pure. It's like the analogy of the window. You know, even though there's a lot of dirt on a window and we can't really see through it, that dirt is not part of the nature of the glass. It's just covering the glass. And so that's the assertion here. And that's what we come to actually directly see in Shamatha and Vipassana practice. We actually see that. And if we can see that, then this won't be just, oh, like I'm pretending, but I'm not really pure. So that's why it's important to have these three practices, because otherwise, and this is what a lot of modern philosophies say, that the nature of the mind is greed, anger, jealousy. That's it. You're stuck with it. Maybe you can reduce it a bit, but tough luck. Get used to it. But the Buddhist assertion is not that. And that's why, for this really to be effective, is to have that study, but also practice, so that actually in Shamatha and Vipassana we can taste that purity. Then when we do this, we're not just sort of pretending something that doesn't really exist. We're actually touching on what actually is reality. So this is important. Yeah. Otherwise, yes, it's just like, okay, they said to do that, but I don't really believe that. No, then we need to change something, because then we're not being authentic. We're pretending, we're believing that we're pretending something that doesn't exist. Well, that doesn't help. So that's why it's important.
So, but it takes time, no?
Not really. I mean, if you do some study on some of these ideas, it doesn't take too much study to understand that it sort of makes sense. That's the first step. You know, of course, if it doesn't make sense, you can just say, but if it sort of make you think, okay, let me check this out then, because if it makes sense, let's check it out. And I think it doesn't take too much practice or shamatha, particularly this resting in awareness, to really get a little taste of that. I mean, are we then 100% certain that that's the case? No, but our experience then seems to match that. So then we get more confident. Well, maybe it's actually like that. Then we go further. And then the Vipassana practice is what really confirms us to 100% that this is the case. But Shamatha, we can get a taste quite quickly.
I want to comment on that. I think if we know ourselves just as a person, that we can connect to this quality of compassion and loving kindness when we see like a baby or someone that injured on the street, we immediately come to help him. Like something small. So if we just rise this quality in us, it's the same. It's the quality that we are, and we can bring it to our heart, and then to make it bigger and bigger. To
yeah, but that's our response to nice people, to cute things. To
yes,
yeah, but that's where we
Just to
start.
bring it up.
That's where we. I mean, that's
to our to
yeah, that's right.
to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean that's what often Dalai
To
Lama
remember.
calls biological compassion.
Yes, very
I mean, and that's where we start, because if we start nurturing that, then we can slowly expand it out as well. If we don't have that, then there's not much
to
chance.
remember it and
Yeah,
then to nurture
sure.
it.
There was a question. Yeah.
Because I heard a reading of the Glen and some other variations.
Sure. Number of variations.
I'm not sure I understood when you say bring in, breathe in, compassion, you mean
Breathe. Yeah, breathing. Use. Yeah.
By compassion, the other smoke.
Yeah, that's right. You're using compassion to take their suffering. Yes, that's right.
I wanted to ask about that the afflictions themselves seems to be like, to me, maybe I'm wrong, and that's what I wanted to ask, like thought habits. And that when I'm doing this meditation, I'm thinking to myself that it's like I need to change these thought habits somehow to the positive thought habits.
Right.
I'm just wondering whether these, because it's also like the matter, the same thing that we're meditating about, these are thoughts. I don't know whether you could say that afflictions are thoughts.
Well, again, in what's often translated as the word thought from a Buddhist text, in Tibetan the word just means conceptuality. So therefore, often when you see the word thought, it includes thinking, emotions, mental images, memories, all of that is thought.
But
As a
is
generic
the aim
class.
To transform them?
Sorry?
Is the aim to transform them?
It depends on perspective. So we just touched on that just before the meditation, is if we have the perspective that here we are now, there's the goal, we have to do these things to get there, then we can talk about transformation, transforming habits, transforming attachment, aversion into loving kindness and compassion. But if we adopt the perspective that there's a Buddha within, there's no what's to transform. All you need to do is connect with that, and then there's no transformation necessary. I mean, the end result is the same, but from the perspective. So the first one is often called the cultivation approach. We're cultivating things in terms of we are lessening negative habits, increasing positive habits, transformation. We're doing these things to achieve that result. Just like the dirty window, normally we need to do a lot of work to clean it to produce a clean window. No, that's normally our perspective. But equally well, we can say that there's already a clean window there. All we need to do is lift the dirt off to see the clean window that's already there. So then there's nothing to transform because the result is already there. We just need to reveal it. So that's often called the discovery perspective. And both of these have advantages and disadvantages. So if we're using the cleaning the window perspective, yes, then we talk a lot about transforming and so forth. But if we use the other perspective, it's not so much about transformation, it's about simply connecting with that, and then we have the result. I mean, we still need to do something in both cases, but it depends a bit on perspective. But generally, the most common perspective is, in many Buddhist traditions, is the one of transformation. We need to apply antidotes to mental afflictions. We need to transform negative habits into positive habits. That's the most common way of presentation, yeah.
What helps me is to think about me and all the others like babies.
Mm-hmm.
And we were babies, so innocent, pure, and those babies are still inside. So to think about myself as a baby and to think about the others that I want to wish for them that this innocent and pure.
And that purity often in Buddhism is called Buddha nature. Our Buddha nature is within. And that Buddha nature, depending on perspective, can either be the potential for enlightenment or it can be the enlightened state within. Both. Both are equally valid. And I think for us in the modern world, it's important to connect with that because we are simply just focusing on the negative and we're doing that with cognitive fusion. We're just completely identifying with negative things. So this sort of gives a little bit of balance. Okay, how to apply this in daily life for Tonglen? When we become familiar with this practice, of course, we can do this whole practice in one breath. On the in-breath, take suffering. On the out-breath, give happiness. Which means we can do this all day long. That whenever we see anyone who seems to be suffering physically or mentally, in one breath, take their suffering, give them happiness. And that is cultivating loving kindness and compassion. But of course we need to do this in an authentic way. Because we can fool ourselves a bit. We could sort of be pretending to do that. Oh, I'm taking their suffering, giving them happiness, suffering, happiness. But then of course the check is, are we being authentic, is if we're in a situation to be able to help them, do we actually help them? If we don't, and we have the capacity and ability to help, and we have the opportunity to help, and we don't help, then we're fooling ourselves. We're just pretending. So by doing this, we're deepening loving kindness and compassion, and you should find as a result that if you have an opportunity to help others, you're more likely to help them, actually help them. So that's one thing we can do. We can do that all day long. And another situation that often comes up